Welcome to the Tiny Characters series. In this YouTube tutorial, we will set up planet switching animation using a basic rig and state machine, as well as add follow pointer movement and color skin change. Let's get started. In the project file, we have pre-built assets that we will use for the animation. Stage from the lesson, Balance 3D. Sun orbit animation from the lesson Tiny Planet. Sunshine design. Eyes animation from the lesson Tiny Planet. Sun face design. Planet mouth design. First, let's set up the rigging for the character. Select the stage and copy the object. Go to the practice artboard, paste the stage, and position it in the center. Set position X to 0 and position Y to 100. Create a planet shape with a size of 160 by 160. Position it at the center of the platform and adjust the gradient. Rename the layer and add it to a new group. Move the origin to the base of the ellipse. We will scale this group to change the size. Create an empty tracker group for the sun. Move it inside the planet hierarchy. Round the position values. Now, when we scale, the tracker moves proportionally. Duplicate the group and rename it to Sun Animation. Add a translation constraint and bind Sun Animation to Sun Track. Test the scaling effect for the created objects. Change the sun colors. Duplicate Sun Track and rename it to Sun Rotate. Move Sun Rotate to the center of the planet shape since I want to rotate the upper ellipse relative to the center of the lower ellipse. Move Sun Track inside Sun Rotate, achieving the desired control for the shapes. Reset the values to standard. Group Sun Rotate again to add an additional rotation control based on cursor position. Group Sun Animation and Planet Animation. Move the origin. Group the character and stage. Move the origin. The character rigging is set up. In the next step, let's animate the character loop. Switch to animate mode and prepare the timeline for animation. Select Planet Animation and Keyframe Position X. Select Sun Rotate and Keyframe Rotation. Animate position X from -10 to 10. Animate rotation from -12 to 12. Adjust the interpolation and loop the animations. Offset the rotation by half the cycle. In the next step, let's add rigging and animation for the character's shadow. In the active loop character timeline, duplicate the character group. Rename it. Change its color. To make it easier to adjust the shadow, disable the visibility of the character. Move character shadow inside top angle so the shadow inherits the platform's perspective angle. After moving, the scale changed. Set scale Y back to 100%. Select top angle and adjust scale Y. The shadow now follows the rotation angle and is animated similarly to the character above. Enable visibility for the character. To make the character follow the platform's movement, create a new tracker group and move it inside top angle. Select character and bind it to Sun Track using a translation constraint. Now the character follows the perspective angle. Select character shadow and adjust position Y. Reduce the character's opacity to see the shadow. Limit the visibility of character shadow to the boundaries of top shape. The rigging and animation for the character and shadows are set up. In the next step, we will add stage animation. Duplicate and clear the loop character timeline. Keyframe scale Y for top angle and low angle. Also, select the main group and keyframe position Y. Animate scale Y for both angles from 30% to 40%. Animate position Y from 100 to 115. Adjust the interpolation and loop the animations. Offset the scale properties. Go to the state machine and connect the loop stage timeline to a new layer. Reduce the character's opacity. Set the loop stage speed to 0.7 and the loop character speed to 1.2. The stage loop animation is ready. In the next step, we will set up the switch animation. Create a new timeline called Switch Planet. Select Planet Animation and Keyframe Scale. Select Sun Animation and Keyframe Scale. Also select the corresponding shadow layers and keyframe scale. This creates the first state where the planet is active. Duplicate the state and change the values to activate the sun. Set planet animation to 50%. Set sun animation to 100%. Set shadow planet animation to 50%. Set shadow sun animation to 100%. We've created two states to switch between. Go to the state machine and create a trigger input. Create a new layer and move the states onto the graph. Connect them with transitions. Add the switch trigger to both transitions. Test the setup. Adjust the duration and interpolation for the transitions. Select both transitions. Set the duration to 700 milliseconds. Enable elastic mode and adjust the parameters. The transitions are configured. Now, set up the listener to switch the trigger. Duplicate the back layer and disable its fill. Switch to Animate mode and create a listener. Set the user action to click and add Fire Switch. The switch animation and controlling listener are set up. To immediate switching between states, select both transitions and allow exit during transitions. In the next step, we will add skin color changes during switching. Create a new timeline called Skin Planet. Using the selected colors, keyframe the planet's skin. Duplicate the timeline and adjust the colors following the video. The states for color changes are set up. Go to the state machine. Duplicate the switch layer since the color change will occur using the same logic. However, I don't need interpolation for the color switch. I want it to change in a single frame. To do this, select the transitions. Set the duration to 0. Set the interpolation to linear. Replace the states on the graph. The color switch is configured. In the next step, we will set up a joystick for controlling the additional rotation of the sun relative to the planet. Create a new timeline for the joystick. Select Sun Rotate Joy and Keyframe Rotation. Select Shad Sun Rotate Joy and Keyframe Rotation. Reduce the character's opacity to see the shadow clearly. Animate rotation from 20 to -20. Select Character Shadow and animate rotation from -3 to 3. Switch to Design mode and create a joystick. Enable Draw in World Space. Click on the X-axis and select Joy Follow. Adjust the size and position it above the scene. To bind the joystick to cursor movement, let's create a controller. Duplicate the listener. Change the user action to pointer move. Add align target and select control original. Now that control follows the cursor, we can connect handle control to control original. The joystick is configured. In the next step, we will set up the orbit animation. Select the assets and switch to the loop spin timeline. With the timeline active, copy the sun orbit object. Switch to practice and prepare a new timeline to transfer the animation. Press Ctrl+V to paste the animated object. Adjust the timeline further. Switch to design mode and move sun orbit inside sun animation. Position it at the center of the ellipse and reduce the scale. Expand the hierarchy and add planet shape as a draw rules target. Create a new layer and connect the loop orbit animation. Switch to the loop character timeline and animate the rotation for orbit animation. Create a timeline for the joystick to control changes in the orbit on the y-axis. Clear the previous properties. Animate the orbit angle from 30 to -30. Switch to design mode and duplicate the joystick. Adjust the y-axis. Set the size and position of the joystick. The joysticks are configured. Animate the skin for sun orbit. In Skin Sun, set the opacity to 0. In Skin Planet, set the opacity to 100. The orbit is configured. In the next step, we will add shine animation. Copy the sunshine and paste it into the practice artboard. Move it to the center of the sun shape and lower it in the hierarchy. Adjust the scale. Animate the skin for sunshine. Create a rotation loop for sunshine. Clear the timeline. Animate the rotation for sunshine from 0 to 360. Reduce the playback speed to 0.5. Duplicate loop orbit and connect the loop sunshine. The shine animation is added. In the next step, we will add eye animation for the sun. With the eye blink timeline active, copy the eyes group. Switch to the main artboard and prepare the timeline for transferring the animation. Press Ctrl+V and paste the eyes group along with the animation. Switch to design mode and adjust its position in the hierarchy. Change the position and scale. Further adjust the blink sun. Create a new layer and connect blink sun. Add align targets for the pupils, similar to how we did in the Tiny Planet lesson. Switch to the assets and copy sun face. Return to practice, paste it, and adjust the hierarchy and position. Group sun face and eyes. Move the origin to the center. Add a translation constraint. Enable the offset and set the strength to 5. Click on the target and select Control Original. Animate the skin for sun face. The sun face animation is configured. In the final step, we will add face animation for the planet. Switch to the Blink Sun timeline and duplicate sun face. Switch to design mode and move the duplicate lower. If we play the timeline, we see that the blink animation is duplicated. Move it inside planet animation. Increase the scale. Copy the prepared mouth from the assets. Remove the mouth and cheeks from the sun. Switch to Control Hitbox 2 and add align targets for planet pupils. Animate the skin change for planet face. The tiny balance animation is successfully completed. Visit Interactive Motion webpage to explore all projects that we will create during the course. And subscribe to our YouTube channel to get fresh Rive tutorials.